Mendel. Oh.
Good morning, Chavra.
Good morning. Okay. 5:29. Let's do it. Good morning. 5:30 a.m. Bright and early. Best way to start your week. Kidush Chodesh, early in the morning. All right, let's go. Today's Rambam, Monday, the 19th of Tammuz, Sefer Zmanim, Hilchos Kidush Chodesh, Perek Gimel, Halacha Aleph, says the Rambam. Eidim Sheroas HaChodesh. He had witnesses that saw the new moon. Im Hayib Beinehem Ubein HaMakim Sheyesh Boi. Based in Mahalach Laila. Sorry, let's try that again. Im Hayib Beinehem Ubein Makim Sheyesh Boi. Based in Mahalach Laila V'yoim Oy Pachos. Halchim Umeidin. If the distance between where they were and where the Beis Din was, where they had to go testify, was, he says, the distance of a night and a little less than a full day. So then they would go and they would travel. Just, we said yesterday that the testimony had to be given while it was still daytime on the 30th, right? So now the question is, they see it at the night before. Let's just say whatever it's 8 o'clock at night. And from the distance where they are, the travel time for them to get to the Beis Din, it's going to take them the entire nighttime and then the entire daytime to the point that they get there. The Rambam saying you have to get there while it's still daytime. Okay. And in that case, they go. The Yashal came. However, if the distance is greater than that, Lo Yechol, they don't go. Because there's no, it's not going to help at all if you testify once the day of the 30th is already complete. They would already at that point be nisaber the Chodesh. They would make it a full month. It would become a month of 30 days, and then they would already establish Rosh Chodesh on the 31st. Okay, klar? Halacha beit. Eidim sheroas haChodesh. Witnesses that saw the moon, they should go to the Beis Din to testify. Even if it was Shabbos, and this is, very interesting that the Rambam is telling us that the Eidim would violate Shabbos in order to go and testify about seeing the new moon. It uses the word b'moy adam. Any place in the Torah where it says the word moyed, it overrides the Shabbos. The fikach ein mechalin ella al Rosh Chodesh Nisan al Rosh Chodesh Tishrei bavad, and therefore we only are mechal Shabbos for Rosh Chodesh Nisan or Rosh Chodesh Tishrei alone, because those were the months where we had Rosh Hashanah. Well, because we had all the Yom Tovim we had Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Tishrei, and obviously Pesach in Nisan. So he says in the time of the, so in today's day, he says they would only be Mechalel Shabbos for Tishrei and Nisan. However, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Mechalen al Kulan, every single month, it didn't matter what was going on that month, even the month of, which is the month with no Yom Tovim, Cheshvan, right? Mar cheshbon. Well, Elo is important. He'll get to that. But like even if it was a month where there was no Yom Tov, they would still be mechal in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, because there was a carbon musaf that had to be brought on Rosh Chodesh, and as a result of that, so a carbon musaf is something as Derech Shabbos. So too, you would travel and be Derech Shabbos in order to testify, so that they could establish the Rosh Chodesh in the right time and bring the carbon musaf. Halacha Gimel. By the way, the primary violation that we're talking about right now is Tchum Shabbos. So they were past the Tchum, past the 2,000 Amos that we discussed not that long ago. And so they could definitely travel beyond the Tchum, which is, so we know that's a Durabanan. So you're definitely violating Durabanan, and we'll keep going. We'll see that there's also, you could also possibly violate Dairaisas. But okay, we'll get there. Just like these Eidim would be Mechala Shabbos to testify, so too the Eidim that would validate who they were. Remember, we learned, I think yesterday, that if you were an Eid, but the Beis Din didn't know who you were, because there was this whole thing with the whatever it was, the Kutim, the Sedukim, the Baisusim that were trying to mess us up. So they would send false witnesses. So it got to the point where if they didn't know who you were, you had to come with other witnesses that they did know, who would then establish your identity and say, oh, this guy is kosher. So the Rambam says, so too, not only would you, the witness that saw the moon, be able to violate Shabbos, so too the validating witnesses would also be able to violate Shabbos. So kach mechalin imayim ha'edim shemizakin oisim bebeis din im lo yahayu beis din makirin as a rayin. If the beis din would not recognize those that saw it, ba'afilu haya zeh shemaya halacha. We're middle of halacha gimel tzavach. Ba'afilu haya zeh shemaya moidia oisim bebeis din eid echad harizah haylachiman machalik misafei. Even if only a single individual could testify regarding the witnesses, he should also violate the Shabbos. I mean, you might say, oh, he's only one aid, and they're not going to accept the testimony only one, so why is he going to go violate Shabbos? It's not worth it. So they said, because maybe they'll find someone else, and they'll combine him with that guy, and then they'll be able to validate the witnesses. So the point is, it just shows you the extent and how important Kidush HaChodesh was, that not only do you, the witness, do you violate Shabbos, but even the witness who knows you will violate Shabbos, and even if it's only one. Okay, halacha daled. Let's just say the witness that saw the moon was sick, and he can't make the journey, he can't walk the distance. So markivin oisay alachamar, you ride him on a donkey, or even on a bed. And this goes into the isser of, we know you're not allowed to ride an animal on Shabbos, right? And then I think it said that there is a concept of chai noisin es atzmai, right? So that normally a human being is considered carrying himself. So even if you're riding on the animals, or it's not like you're being carried. But I think it said that if you're a chayla, or you're restricted to your bed, so then that wouldn't apply, because now you're not carrying yourself, you're just lying in a bed. And even in that case, people could lift up the bed and carry you to testify. If there is an ambush waiting on the way, and they explained that this was talking about these sedukim or baisusim or kutim that they push it, or they would wait and try and ambush the guy that was going to testify, because they wanted to mess us up. So they were allowed to take weapons with them. And if it was a far away, they could also take food. So think about all the different halachas, hilchas Shabbos that you're being violated, that you're violating. Weapons, you're violating muksa, you're violating haitzah, you're violating several different things. The Rambam, it doesn't matter. You take weapons with you, you take food and drink with you. That's what you need. That's what you do. Okay. Afilu ra'u gedola. I'm sorry. Afilu ra'uhu gadol v'nira lakol. Oh, he says, imagine you saw, like, it was pretty big, and you realized that you weren't the only one that saw it. Tons of people must have seen it. So lo yaimru, you shouldn't say kashem shereinuhu anachnu kach ra'u achevrim v'inanu tzrichim l'chalas hashabbos. You shouldn't say that. Listen, I'm here in wherever it was. Let's say you're in Tzfas and you see the moon. I don't know if Tzfas is too far, but whatever. You're in I don't know, what's a good suburb of Jerusalem? Maybe Beit Shemesh. Okay, you're in Beit Shemesh. No, Tzemach, you got one?
Alu Teiman, the shawarma place in the gas station.
Okay, so let's say you're in Alu Teiman, right? You're by the gas station, and you see a pretty sizable moon. So you say to yourself, why should I go be Mechalel Shabbos right now to walk from outside the Tchum? Or maybe he's not well, he has to go on a donkey, whatever it is. It's so big, someone else over there for sure saw it. They don't need me. So I'm not going to go. Rambam says, you have to go, okay? Whoever sees the moon, and he is able to testify, and there's the distance, like we said in the first halacha, of less than a night and a full day. Mitzvah alav l'chalas haShabbos u'leiluch lahad. It's a mitzvah to violate the Shabbos and to go and testify. Halacha hey. Originally, they would accept the testimony the entire 30th day, right? And any time they accepted you on the 30th, if it was accepted, then that day became Rosh Chodesh, right? So that's the way it was in the beginning. However, Pam Achas, Nishtahu Eidim Milavai Ad Bein Arbayim, the Eidim were delayed in coming until it was already late in the afternoon. Then it's Kalkalu Bamikdash, Yadu Mayasu, they got mixed up in the base of Mikdash, they didn't know what to do. Im Yasu Oila. Shel Bein Arbayim, if they should bring the Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim, Shema Yavayu Eidim, maybe the Eidim will come. Be actually Akriv Musav Ayoim Acher Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. They wouldn't bring it. But the last carbon of the day that was brought was always the Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. Yet on Rosh Chodesh they had to bring the Musaf, so they didn't know what to do. Should we bring the Tamid? And they were running out of time, right? And so if they bring the Tamid. Then now, if they establish it as Rosh Chodesh, you just mess us up because you can't bring the Musaf anymore. So due to this situation that they found themselves in, so Amdu Beis Din, the Hiskinu, they made a takana. They established you could only accept the witnesses about Kiddush HaChodesh up to the time of Mincha Kitana, Kadesh Yehei Shehus Bayoim Lahakriv Musafim V'Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim V'Nis came, so that there would be enough time to bring both the Karban Musaf and the Karban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. So that was up until 9.5 hours into the day. Excuse me. That was the cutoff. Halacha Vav. If you got to that mincha time and the witnesses did not come, then they would bring the Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. The imbo edim mincha. So now he says the imbo edim min mincha ulamayla. If let's say edim did show up and they said, "Hey, we saw the moon. Today's Rosh Chodesh." They would consider that day holy. Ulamachar Kodesh, and the next day holy, and that's, by the way, this is where the 2-day Rosh Chodesh comes from. Umakrivin Musaf Lamachar, they would bring the Musaf on the following day, on the 31st, which was the first. So even though really, the 30th should have been Rosh Chodesh, because they came too late, so they came up with this concept of the 2-day Rosh Chodesh. They held that the 30th was the Rosh Chodesh and the first. However, they would actually only bring the Karban Musaf on that 31st.
Isn't 2-day Rosh Chodesh for the other cities that didn't find out on time?
So they hold on one second. We're saying that they would The other cities that didn't find out on time would do 2 days all the time, Mistama. But here he's saying that even in Yerushalayim, they kept 2 days. In these situations. Obviously, if the guy came earlier in the day and testified, then it would be. I was actually thinking about this. So, when would you say halal? Right? Meaning, it says that they were noeg the 30th as Rosh Chodesh. That means that they did say halal, or whatever the other customs of Rosh Chodesh were. They just didn't actually. No musaf. Exactly. All right. Mishachar Beis Hamikdash says once the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan Zajac ubeis dinoi sheyimekam edus hachodesh kohen kuloi. So now he got rid of that takana because it wasn't an issue anymore, right? Meaning now that we don't have to bring the carbon musaf anymore. So this time constraint of waiting up till mincha ketana 2.5 hours before shkia was not relevant anymore. So he re-enabled them to come all day till up till shkia. So even if they came right before shkia, and they would be mekadesh the 30th day alone, and they wouldn't have to do a 2-day Rosh Chodesh. Halacha Zayin. Make sense, guys? Halacha Zayin. When the Beis Din would be ma'aber the Chodesh, so they would make it a full month of 30 days because Edom didn't come. They would go up early in the morning to a designated place, and they would have this special meal, right? And this was on the morning of the 31st, and that was Rosh Chodesh. That's the way you would know that it was Rosh Chodesh. The ain, right, a nice breakfast. Like a shakshuka breakfast. The ain oilin l'sham balayla. They wouldn't go up there at night. Ella baneshef koydem alois hashemesh. They would go at daybreak right before alois hashachar. The ain oilin l'suda zu pachas me'asara. They would not do this meal with less than 10 people, so you had to have a full minyan. They would have to have bread that was made from, it was like gluten-free bread, made from pas dagan kutnias, from grain and legumes. So maybe it was, I don't know why he specifies that, but the point is that they had bread.
Not keto friendly. It's not keto friendly, so forget
not keto friendly, Sama says. And they would eat it at the time of the meal. This is the Rosh Chodesh meal that is referred to in all the places, this special meal with 10 men that they would go on the day of the 31st. Now, just to back up, we said that if they were Makadosh the Chodesh on the 30th, right? And they established, what would they do? They would do this whole thing of, they would announce Mekudesh, right? Did we say that yesterday? So it seems like, if I'm understanding this, that when they made the Rosh Chodesh on the 30th, there was no meal. It was just they would announce the Mekudesh. When it was on the 31st, i.e. on the 1st, then they would not say Mekudesh. Rather, they would establish it by having this special meal of 10 men early in the morning. Halacha ches. In the beginning, when Beis Din was Mekadesh Chodesh, hayu masi'in masu'os rashi haharim kadesh yedu harchoikim. So now we're getting into how do they notify the surrounding areas that day was actually Rosh Chodesh. So it says in the beginning, they would go up onto the mountains that were surrounding Yerushalayim, and they would light bonfires, and there was like a system of, all the fires around the mountaintops around Yerushalayim would be lit up. And then in the other cities, they would also see that, and they would light fires, and it was, the term in English for that is called a bale fire, right? So, to let the people know that we're far, that it was Rosh Chodesh. What happened was, these evil Samaritans, they wanted to mess us up and what they would do is they started lighting their own fires even when it wasn't Rosh Chodesh, right? They right around the time when it was supposed to be, let's say it was on the 30th, whether there was testimony or not, they would light fires. So kedela hatis in order to make the rest of the country make mistakes. So after that, so heskinu sheyu shluchim yotzim moedian l'Rabbi. So instead of using this fire system, instead they would send out messengers in order to inform the masses. Shluchim elu eina mechalan es yom tov ve'ein tzarich leimer Shabbos. Now the Rambam points out that in contrast to the witnesses that would come and testify when it was Rosh Chodesh, in the opposite way, now it's Rosh Chodesh. So now all we have to do is we have to notify the masses that it is Rosh Chodesh. And how we do it? We're doing it by sending out messengers. Those messengers were not allowed to violate Yom Tov and certainly not Shabbos. So the Ein Tzarich Leimer Shabbos, she'ein mechalan it's a Shabbos akaimoy. You cannot violate Shabbos from its established time. Elo lekadre bilvad. The only time you're allowed to violate it is only to be mekadesh the Rosh Chodesh, but not the opposite way to let people know. So we're gonna have a little issue, right? Because if they establish the month and the people in the surrounding areas don't know, when would it be an issue? Obviously, it's gonna be an issue on Rosh Hashanah, right?
Any month that there's money, we said before 2.
Right. Well, I was just thinking about that. In the other months where there's a mayid, there's still enough time for them to get there before that mayid, right? It's not going to take 15 days to get, but I guess presumably, I guess if they're outside of Eretz Yisrael, it takes more than 15 days, whatever, then maybe. Right. But certainly Rosh Hashanah, which is the first of right then, that would be, you got to know. Anyway, halacha test. Al shisha chadashim hayushluchim yaitzim. There were 6 months when the messages would go out. Al Nisan mepnei Pesach, Al Av mepnei Tainus, right? In the month of Av because of Tisha B'Av. Al Elul mepnei Rosh Hashanah. On Elul they would go out because of Rosh Hashanah. Kadesh Yeshu mitzapin b'yam shloishim leElul im noidelam shekidushu based in Yom Shloishim noigu oisa hayom Kodesh B'Vad. Im leinedelam noigim Yom Shloishim Kodim. Okay, so he says also in the month of Elul because of Rosh Hashanah, it says that they would wait in readiness on the 30th day of Elul. So if it became known, so if it became known to them that they were Mekadesh the 30th day, then that day would become Rosh Hashanah. They would only one day Rosh Hashanah. If it was not known to them, so the Noigin Yom Shloishim Kodim V'Yom Echad U'Shloishim Kodesh. So then they would make Rosh Hashanah on 2 days, on the 30th and also on the 1st, right? Until the messengers would arrive. Al Tishrei and the month of Tishrei. You had to send out the messengers because of Sukkot, right? The holidays in Sukkot, Val Kislev, and in Kislev, Mibnei Chanukah, because of Chanukah, Val Adav Bnei Purim was Mancha Beis Hamikdash Kayim Yaitz Val Iyar, and the time of the Beis Hamikdash was around, so they would also do it in Iyar Mibnei Pesach Katan. Notice that the 1 month that he doesn't have in here, and even before in Halacha Ches, when in Halacha Ches, where he was talking about, over here where he says the different months, he does not mention Sivan. So he doesn't mention Shavuos, which is interesting. And I guess the commentators point out that the reason he doesn't mention Sivan is that Sivan didn't have a set day of the month when it had to be. Even though today we have Shavuos on whatever, it's Vav and Zion Sivan, right? But back then, it actually brought down in the Gemara that Shavuos, depending on when the month, how many days was the month of Nisan, because it was always 50. They count 50 days of Sfira. So depending on when that was, it could sometimes Shavuos could be on the 5th, sometimes the 6th, sometimes the 7th. But it wasn't. It didn't rely on what day of the month Sivan was. That's just side note. Okay, halacha yud, my last halacha. Before I turn over to Mendel, shluchei Nisan or shluchei Tishrei ein yaitze elo b'yom Rosh Chodesh. So the messengers of Nisan and Tishrei they would not go out only b'yom Rosh Chodesh, achar shetala hashemesh, on Rosh Chodesh after the sun rose, ad sheyishmeu mepni beis din mekudesh. They would hear the word mekudesh, and then they would go out. Im kitchu beis din b'seif yom tishav esrim k'may shamarnu. Let's say it was an example where they were mekudesh the Chodesh late on the 29th, right? Because we learned yesterday that there was a scenario where if they saw the moon on it was still the end of the day of the 29th, right, going into the evening, they could say mekudesh right there, and now they've already established the 30th day as Rosh Chodesh. So he's saying that they would dafka go in the day. So commercial amar beis din mekudesh. Only if they actually heard the Beis Din say the words Mekudesh, then they would leave and inform the rest of the places. I'm not done? Oh, however, the messengers of the other months, they would go out after they saw the moon, even though the Beis Din was not yet Mekadosh the Chodesh. They didn't say Mekudesh. Since they already saw it, they would go out. Since they knew that the next day, for sure, the Beis Din is going to be Mekadosh the Chodesh. Therefore, they were able to leave at night and get out in time to notify the other locations. Go ahead, Mendel.
Yeah.
I think the reason why they were able to go the other 6 months before Beis Din even declared Chodesh is because there was no Yom Tif, and if they made a mistake, there was plenty of time to go back and correct. As opposed to the first 6 months that we listed as a Yom Tif, so they only went out when Beis Din confirmed it because that was its whole purpose. It was to notify the people when the Yom Tif was.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, it's if you know Bavadai, which is what he's saying in the second half of the halacha, that it's going to be Mekudesh.
But how can you know Bavadai until they actually say it? You don't know if it's going to go through. They saw the moon. Okay. All right. Halacha Yud Aleph. Kol Markim Shahayu Hashluchin Magin. Any place that was near Yerushalayim where the shluchim would reach, they would make the Yom Tov in one day, like it's written in the Torah. But the places that were further away, that the messengers would not reach there, they would make 2 days of Yom Tov because it was a doubt. Because the people in that city didn't know what day the Beis Din established Rosh Chodesh. Was it on the 30th? Was it on the 31st? So therefore, they would make 2 days Yom Tif. Okay, Halacha Yud Beis. Now we're going to speak about how there could be a place where the Shluchim would reach on the month of Nisan, but they would not reach on the month of Tishrei, because Tishrei has 2 days less than Nisan where the Shluchim cannot travel. We said before that the Shluchim can't violate Shabbos or Yom Tif. So on Tishrei, there's Rosh Hashanah, and there's Yom Kippur. Those are days they can't travel. So there can be a place where it needs 2 more days to get there. They don't get there on Tishrei, but they'll get there on Nisan. So the question is, are they considered a place where they do receive the message or not? So it says Halacha Yud Beis. There were places where the messengers would reach in the month of Nisan, but they would not reach there on Tishrei. So umin hadin haya. So if you just follow the letter of the law, sheyasu Pesach Yom Tov Echad, month of Pesach, when they get there on time, they should only have to celebrate 1 day. Shari Yagila and Shluchin, the other Beis Yom Nikra Rosh Chodesh, because the messengers got there and they know which day was established as Rosh Chodesh. And v'yasu Yom Tov Shechag HaSukkah Shnei Yamim. But in the month of Tishrei, where they don't get there on time because they have 2 less days, Sukkot should be celebrated for 2 days. Because the messengers did not reach there. That should have been what the halacha is. But being that that's way too confusing, in 1 month we celebrate 1 day. In 1 month we celebrate 2 days. So in order to make things simple, we established that even in the month, those cities, even the month of Nisan, should also celebrate 2 days of Pesach. So in order not to differentiate between Yom Tovim, Hiskinu chachamim. The chachamim made a decree. Shekol markim shein shluchei Tishrei magin loy, any place where the messengers of Tishrei do not reach there. Oisin shnei yamim, we make 2 yamim tovim. And afilu yom tev shalat teres, even a yom tev like Shavuos, like Rabbi Danny said before, where Shavuos it's not really dependent on a day of the month. It's just counting 50 days from Nisan. Even Shavuos, they made it that those cities should celebrate 2 days. So both Pesach, both Tishrei, and even Shavuos. Halacha Yud Gimel. How many days of a difference is there between the messengers that get there on Nisan and the messengers that get there on Tishrei? It's Shnei Yamim, is a 2-day difference. The messengers don't go on the first day of the month because it's Rosh Hashanah, and not on the 10th day because it is Yom Kippur. Obviously, the messengers also didn't travel on Shabbos, but that doesn't make a difference because there's Shabbos in the month of Nisan and there's Shabbos in the month of Tishrei. Halacha Yud Dalid. Now, when we said before that the witnesses that testified that they saw the new moon, we need 2 people, and the witnesses that testify that these witnesses are trustworthy, if Beis Din didn't know who they were 2 people. Now, how many messengers were needed to notify the nearby cities that it was Rosh Chodesh? So the Rambam says you only need 1 messenger. You only need 1 witness to be a messenger to say that it was Rosh Chodesh, because they're not giving testimony, they're just giving over information. And it doesn't even need to be a messenger. Even if you have a traveling merchant that he's going on his path. And he says, I heard from the mouth of Beis Din that they sanctified the new month on a specific day. Neman, this merchant is believed. We established the Yom Tiv based on his testimony. Why do we believe 1 person? Because whatever this person says is going to be revealed in the future. People will find out if he's telling the truth or not. And therefore, we can assume that this person is telling the truth. He's not going to say a lie for something that he can get called out for. It's something that's going to be revealed. And the Eid Echad Kasher Neman Alav. And if you have 1 kosher witness, says he is trustworthy. So you only need 1 messenger. Halacha Tes Vav. Beis Din sheyashu kol yoyim shloshim v'lo bo edim. You have a court that they sat the entire 30th day and witnesses didn't come. And v'yishkimu b'neshef, and they got up early in the morning, like we said before Alaysa Shachar, and they made the meal, v'ibras Chodesh, and they made it a full month that they declared the 31st day to be Rosh Chodesh. Like we explained in this parak. And what happened was the achar arba'a chamisha yamim, 4 or 5 days later, ba'u edim rechokim, if distant witnesses come, the heidu sheraos hachodesh bizmanet, they saw the moon in its time, shehulil shloshim, on the night of the 30th. Now, even though the Rambam said before that witnesses should only travel if they're less than 24 hours of distance to get there before the end of the 30th day, the Rambam is giving a scenario where, let's say that for whatever reason they didn't listen to that and they traveled anyways, and now they're coming with a testimony. So do we accept their testimony or not? So even if they come at the end of the month, so ma'aymin alehem iyun gadol, the Beis Din would scare them, and they would disorient these witnesses with questions, and they would put a lot of effort with checking them, and they would be very precise with their testimony. And the Beis Din would do what they can, that these witnesses should not be successful, so that they shouldn't sanctify the month based on their testimony, because the word already got out that this was a full month. So that's what Beis Din tried to do. But halacha tezayin that if the witnesses stood their ground and they were found to be compatible, they were found to be trustworthy, and these witnesses are men that are known and they are smart, meaning they were trustworthy, and do some karaui, and they got investigated properly, and their testimony stood. So then says the Rambam, the Mikachin Oisai, Beis Din at the end of the month can re-sanctify this month, and the Chayzrin Umaynin LaOisa HaChodesh B'Yom Shloshim, you count from this month now as if they sanctified it on the 30th day as opposed to the 31st. Now we're going to say exceptions, but this can cause a lot of problems.
So basically, instead of the 31st day being the first, instead you go back and you make the 30th the first.
Yes,
right?
Even if you're already at the end of the month.
Wow.
Changed all of their previous dates.
Wow.
Since the moon was seen in its night at the night of the 30th. Now says the Rambam Halacha Yud Zayin, however, if Beis Din had a need to keep this month full, and we'll learn, and there's multiple reasons why Beis Din would need that, then they can decide, they can just delay the testimony so that they shouldn't end up following it and to keep the month as it is. Beis Din needed to keep this month full, like the way it was before these witnesses came, then they actually leave the month as it is. And v'zehu sha'amru, this is the meaning of that which it says, ma'abrin es ha'chodesh l'tzorech. Beis Din could make an ibur month if there was a specific need, and this applies even if witnesses come and try to make it that it should be a chodesh chaser. So mamish, Beis Din really had the power to determine which direction this went. V'yesh min ha'chachamim ha'gedolim. And there were great chachamim that would argue with this, and they said that no, we never make it a full month if there was a specific need. Rather, we always just follow the witnesses. Since witnesses came, we sanctify the new month even at the end of the month, and we don't scare them at all. So we have two opposing opinions as to what to do. So what do we actually hold? Do we try to push it off if there's a need, or do we just follow the witnesses? It says the Rambam, it appears to me, how do I pass in between these two opinions? That this argument only applies to the other months, This machlokas does not apply by Nisan and Tishrei, or even in the month of Nisan and Tishrei, if it was after the Yamim Tovim of those months passed, there everyone agrees that you don't go back and retroactively change it. What was done was done. The time of the Karbanis passed, the time of the Yamim Tovim passed. You can't at the 28th day of the month of Tishrei and Nisan now change it, because then there's no way to ever fix the Yamim Tovim that were already kept.
Right, it would come out that you were eating chametz on Pesach.
Come out, you were eating chametz on Pesach, and you didn't bring the proper karbanis in the right time.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
So everyone agrees that you don't change it in those 2 months if it already passed. But when is there a machloikes? If they came in the first half of the month, then mikablin edusan, we do receive their testimony. And we don't scare them at all, because we don't scare the witnesses that they testify that they saw the man in his proper time in order to make it a full month.
It's a little strange to me, right? Because the Rambam seems to be trying to make these two opinions jive, right?
Yes.
Either we scare the witness or we don't.
Yes.
So he makes a distinction of whether it's Tishrei or Nisan, whether it's before Yom Tov or not, right?
That's right.
So why does he just say that if in Tishrei or Nisan they come, if they come in time, okay, we'll listen to them. Why do you have to do the scaring business? And if they come afterwards, forget about scaring. We just don't listen to them. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like if they showed up in Tishrei after Pesach, you would still listen to them, but we would like scare them really badly in a way where we wouldn't have to listen to them. That's what it sounds like he's saying.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Why can't you just say, hey, there's a deadline. You showed up after the 15th on Nisan, it's over with. Sorry, we're not accepting anybody.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Very good. Halacha your test. Last halacha of the parak. We do, however, scare witnesses that whose testimony has been disputed. And as of now, things are tilted that their testimony is not going to be substantiated, and the month is going to be a full month. We pressure them so that their testimony will be upheld, and therefore will be sanctified in its proper time. One second. I thought we scare them. Don't we scare them in order to delay, in order that their testimony should not be accepted? One second. Let's read the next scenario. And so too. If let's say there are a second group of witnesses that are coming to make the original group of witnesses Eidim Zaymimin by saying that you never saw the new moon, you were with us. Before Bezdin actually declared the new month to be Rosh Chodesh, they would scare the second group of witnesses that were coming to make the first group Eidim Zaymimin, actually to Sky Ma'azama, so that their hazama should not be established. We should be able to sanctify the moon in its proper time based on the first group of witnesses.
Because why should one group of Eidim be believed over the other?
Well, that's in general.
Correct. Rabbi Danny is saying we whenever there's two groups, one group says one thing. By the way, Eidim Zayim and Samach doesn't mean that they contradict the testimony of the first witnesses. It's that they say
you were with us.
You were with us. And the rule is we always believe if their testimony is withheld, we believe the second group of witnesses. So the Rambam is saying that if the first set of witnesses are coming to say that they saw the moon in its proper time on the night of the 30th,
right,
and the second group is trying to stop them from giving their testimony, Bezdin, if they want, they can scare the second group so not to disqualify the first group, so we should be able to sanctify the Chodesh to be a Chodesh Chasar.
Right.
Okay, Perek Daled, Halacha Aleph. Shana Mu'beres, a leap year. It is a year that we add an additional month. Like we said before, that the difference between a solar month and a solar year and a lunar year is approximately 11 days. So approximately every 3 years, we had to add an additional month. That's called a Shana Mu'beres. Now, which month do we add? The Ein Moisifin La'olam Ela Adar. We only added the month of Adar, but we're making that month 2 Adars, Adar Rishon, Ve Adar Sheni. Now, why do we specifically add the month of Adar? Because of the springtime. Because we need for Pesach to fall out during spring. So the month before that is Adar, so that's going to be the month that we're going to add the additional 30 days. In order that Pesach should be in the spring. Remember, like it says regarding the month of Nisan, Shamar es Chodesh ha'aviv, you should guard that this month should fall out in the spring. Shia Chodesh Nisan bismana aviv, that Nisan should be in spring. And veluli tesefes ha'chodesh zef, not for adding this additional month of Adar. Sometimes Pesach would come in the summer, and sometimes in the winter, if not for the fact that we added this additional month. Okay, before we start halacha beis, just to get familiar with the terms, we're going to be speaking about additional reasons why. Well, first we're going to speak about, like we just said before, about spring, and we're going to give 2 other reasons why Bezdin would want to add an additional month to this year. So just to get the terms, there are 4 seasons in a year. They are called, season number 1 is called Tkufas Nisan, which is spring. The second one is called Tkufas Tammuz, which is the summer. Tkufas Tishrei, which is the fall. And Tkufas Teves, which is the winter. Okay, so it says the Rambam like this. There are 3 reasons why the Bezdin would want to make it a leap year. So reason number 1 could be a reason why that on itself would be a reason why we add a month, which is Alat Kufa, which is for the season. And then we have an additional 2 reasons that if you have both of those reasons combined, then we would add another month. Al Ha'aviv, you need to make sure that the barley crop was ripened. Here, Aviv means ripened. because as we're going to explain later that we needed barley for the carbon ha'omer, and if there was no barley that was ripened, the barley needed to come from Chodesh, from the produce that was grown that year. So if the barley wasn't going to be ripe on time, then we'd add 30 days to the month of Adar to make sure that the carbon ha'omer is delayed, so we'll have a barley for the carbon ha'omer. And you also needed the second reason, which is valper se'ilan. If the trees were not producing fruits in its proper time, and so we needed to delay it by another 30 days, and that would be, in addition to the second reason, there would be a reason why we would add another 30 days of Adar. So Ketzar, based in Mechashbin, the Bezdin would calculate the Yoidin, and they would know if the season of spring was going to fall out on the 16th day of Nisan or after that, which is already too late, then they would make this year a leap year. And they would make what should have been the month of Nisan a second month of Adar, in order that Pesach should be in spring. That's reason number one, and that reason in itself is enough why we would make it a leap year. And on this reason, we can rely on it and make it a leap year. But you don't need an additional reason. Halacha Gimel, but let's say the issue is not spring. But if Bezdin saw that the barley has not yet ripened, rather it is late, it's blossoming late, it's ripening late. And you need an additional reason that the fruits of the trees have not sprouted yet, and its normal time is for it to sprout in the times of Pesach. So then you can rely on both of these reasons, and you can make it a leap year. And this applies even if the first reason is not here. Even though the season of spring falls out before the 16th day of Nisan, they do make it a leap year in order that the barley should be ripe and it should be found. So we should be able to find the carbon ha'omer, which is made out of barley, on the 16th day of Nisan, and that the fruits should be producing its fruits the trees should be producing its fruits in its proper time, which is in the spring. Okay, halacha daled. Now, where would we check? Which cities would we check if the barley and the fruits were growing in its proper times? The Rambam says that there were 3 cities that they would check, and if 2 out of those 3 cities did not have the produce growing on time, then we would make it a leap year. But if only one of those cities didn't have it on time, then there would not be enough of a reason to make it a leap year. There were 3 cities where they would rely to see if the barley was ripening on time, and that was number 1, Alaris Yehuda, in the land of Yehuda, which is the city of Yerushalayim. Number 2 is Ever HaYardin, on the other side of the Yarden, which is where the 2.5 Shvatim lived, and Val HaGalil, in the city of Galil. If 2 out of 3 the barley was ripening on time, and on one of them it was not on time, so then we wouldn't make it a leap year because majority 2 of them was good. And if only in one of these 3 cities the barley was ripening, and 2 of them it was not, then they would make it a leap year. If you also had the third reason, which is if the fruit did not grow yet. And these are the 3 main reasons why we would make it a leap year, so that the years should follow the sun and the seasons should follow it in its proper times. Now we're going to learn Allah.
Is that what it means by the whole fruit thing? I mean, the Omer makes sense. You have barley that you need to have from Chodesh growth, right? And if it's too early, you're not going to have that. But what's this whole Peres Elon business? Do we know?
It's part of the season, it seems like. That's what
Right. Why isn't it enough just to look at the Omer?
What does it mean, Peres Elon? You need to get what fruits are we referring to specifically? That's I'm not really.
I don't know. I don't know why it's needed, but we can. It's just interesting to point out that when do we make a bracha on the ripening of new fruits? It's also only in the month of Nisan. Like it needs to happen during that month.
It's what defines the season. It sounds like.
So you have to have fruits that are budding in the month of Nisan in order to make that bracha, and maybe that's why we need to have that along.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay, halacha hey, we're going to learn 4 more reasons. Each one of these reasons is enough in order for it to be a leap year. There are additional reasons. Shayu Bezin Ma'abrim B'Shvilin, the Bezin would make it a leap year because of a need. And Be'eluain, and they are. Reason number 1, if the roads were not fixed. And the people would not be able to travel to the Beis HaMikdash because of these roads. Then we can make it a leap year. Until the rain season stops and we can fix the roads. Reason number 2 is if the bridges got destroyed. And the rivers were stopping the people from reaching the Beis HaMikdash. Or maybe there were people that were extremists, and even though there was no bridges, they had to make it to Yerushalayim, they would put themselves in danger. So because of that reason, the bridges are broken. We can make it a leap year until they fix the bridges. Reason number 3, let's say it was a very rainy season and the ovens where they would roast the carbon Pesach got ruined, and they don't now have anywhere to roast their carbon Pesach. That's another reason why to make it a leap year, that may give them enough time to make new ovens and dry them. And final reason number 4 is the Yidden that were living in Chutz La'aretz, that they started making their journey to Eretz Yisrael, but Yerushalayim and Bezin are seeing that they're not going to make it here on time. So because of those Yidden, we can make it a leap year to give them time in order to make it to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay. Now comes halacha vav. We're going to give 4 other reasons that's not enough to make it a leap year. And they are halacha vav. We do not make it a leap year, not because of snow. And not because it's cold. And not because of the Yidden that they were crossing and they left late. We don't give them another 30 days for them to make it on time. And the final one is not because of Tuma. Going, for example, yes.
Reason, you think I'll use?
Yeah, the third reason, correct.
Different than the last part of Hay that you just read?
In halacha Hay, the people that left on time, and there was other reasons that they weren't going to make it there, so then Beis Din made it an Ibur Yar. They gave them an extra 30 days. But if they just left, they didn't leave on time, they left late. If people didn't leave yet, and now they realize, now they want to go to Yerushalayim and we want to have another 30 days, that's not a reason. The fourth reason is if let's say most of the Yidden were impure, or most of the Kehanim were impure, we don't make it a leap year. And to give them time to become pure, Ella rather Yasa Betuma. They can bring the carbon Pesach in a state of impurity. You couldn't do that.
How long does it take to get pure? 7 days?
It takes 7 days to get pure. Let's say most of the Yidden got impure. You're saying when would be a scenario, because you have to make it a leap year before Nisan started.
Yeah, before the 29th of Adar.
On the 29th of Adar was the last day.
Because if you already had the 30th, you can't do it.
You can't do it anymore. So you're asking where would be a scenario to make it a leap year for Tuma if it
on the 22nd, the 21st, the 22nd, whatever.
Yeah, but there's plenty of time till Pesach then.
Oh, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Oh, very good question. Yeah,
that's your question. I'm not sure. Why would it be a reason for Tuma if anyways there's enough time
get pure before Pesach.
To become pure before Pesach? So they bring over here in a scenario where let's say the ashes of the Parah Aduma ran out. And it's going to take a long time to find the Parah Aduma. Correct. We're not just talking about where you have the ashes, but just to get the Parah Aduma itself. They see that they need an additional 30 days. That wouldn't be a reason. Very good. But if let's say they went ahead and they did use this as a reason to add 30 days, then it would be considered to be a leap year. Okay. Halacha Zayin. There are 2 reasons that we do not make it a leap year at all. but they would use it as an additional help, additional reason why to make it a leap year. Let's say if you have the main reason because of the season, or because of the barley or the trees, you can have these additional things that will give you more of a reason to make it a leap year. And they are, let's say there weren't enough goats or lambs for people to bring the carbon Pesach. They weren't born yet. Or there were very few. That could be one reason. Or
meaning we wanted to delay so there could be more, so we'd have enough for carbon Pesach. Right?
We could have enough for the carbon Pesach.
Okay,
Not only the carbon Pesach, or let's say the young doves that were needed for the Oilas Re'iyah, not even for the carbon Pesach, but for other carbonis that were needed. So then, if we know that we don't have enough, that's not enough of a reason to make it a leap year, but that could be an additional reason why Beis Din will say because of the Tkufa and because of this, we're going to make it into a leap year. They're not old enough to fly yet. We don't make it a leap year in order that there should be goats and lambs found for the carbon Pesach, and that you should have the young doves for the carbon Oilas Re'iyah. For someone else was to bring a bird. We make it as an additional help. How do we make it as an additional help? Bezin says that this year needs to be a leap year because the seasons are extending, it's not going to be on time, or because of the barley and the fruits of the tree that they're not ripe yet. And then they say, and an additional reason we need to do it is because the goats are still young and the young doves are still frail and we still need more time. Which people from the Beis were able to make it a leap year? It was only by invitation only through invited. What was the process? The Beis Din Hagadol, the Av Beis Din would go over to two people that were part of the Sanhedrin, and he would tell them, "Hey, be prepared in a specific place where there we're gonna make the calculations, and we're gonna see we'll know we'll try to see if this year needs to be in a leap year." And only those two additional people that were invited, they would determine if this year needs to be a leap year. Now, let's say these three people would say, we need to calculate. Then it would be as follows. How many people were needed to actually make it into a leap year? We start with three people from the Sanhedrin, like we said before, the Av Beis Din with two other people. That had slicha. And if two out of those three people say, we actually don't need to sit and see if this needs to be a leap year. We already know that it does not need to be. And the third one would say, we need to make a calculation. So then the one would be batal in comparison to the other two, and nothing else was needed. Those three people on their own determined that we're not going to make it a leap year. But if two out of the three say, we need to sit and we need to see if this year needs to be a leap year, and only one of them says we don't have to sit, then we have to add two additional people that we invite. Now we have a total of 5, and the noisim bedavar, they would have a debate and they would see if they needed to make this year into a leap year. Halacha Yud.
Okay. Good morning. Good almost afternoon, Samach. Time is it for you? It's like literally almost afternoon. Okay, or maybe like me, you just woke up. I don't know.
There isn't enough coffee on the
planet. All right. Shnayim Oimrim, Sricha Ibor. If two of them come and they say Srichim Ibor, we need to make the year a leap year. Ushloisha Oimrim in a Sricha, and then 3 come and say we do not need to make an Ibor year, but Lushnayim Miutan. Then the 3 overtake the 2, and they do not make it a leap year. Shloisha Oimrim Sricha. How about if 3 come and say we need it? Ushnaim Oimrim in a Sricha, and then 2 come and say we do not need it. So the three that wanted are more than the two. Musifin shnayim min hamizumanim la noisim grimrim b'shiva. Then you add two to the original two that are saying that we don't need it, and then they come to a total of 7. Im gamru kulam la'abed or shelo la'aber. If they come and they say that we should either make it a leap year or not make it a leap year, oisim kama shagamru. Then we take the ones who are differing in opinion. V'im nechleku hochim achar haroiv. Then, if they're differing, we go according to the majority. Bein la'aber, bein shelo la'aber. Then we go according to whether they should make it a leap year or not a leap year. You have to include with them this Rosh Beistin, who is part of the head of the 71 judges of the Sanhedrin, Miklal HaShiva, included in this group of 7. Okay. If they conclude that there's a necessity to have a leap year, then it becomes a leap year. As long as the Nasi is part of these ones who are saying yes, or as long as the Nasi agrees with their reasoning. In this leap year, Maschilin min hatzad, we begin with the lesser ones, the lower judges, not the smartest ones. However, with the Kidush Chodesh, we start with the greater ones. Why here do we start with the lesser judges, with the lower level judges? Because if the ones who are going to hear, if the ones who are greater are going to speak first, then the ones who are lesser are going to probably lean to the side of the greater judges, and we don't want them to be influenced.
Right.
Okay. Halach Yud Aleph. Ein moshivin le'iber hashana loy melech v'loy kohen gadol. We do not allow a king or a high priest to be able to establish the leap year. Melech mipnei cheloisav u'milchamoisav. A king, because he might be influenced by his soldiers and his wars. Shema daita noita b'shvilan le'aber or shelo la'aber. Maybe by the soldiers or his wars. It might be a political thing for him, maybe. But Kohen Gadol mipnei hatzina. The Kohen Gadol, what's his reasoning for not being able to give an opinion whether it should be a leap year? Because of the cold. What does that mean? Shema lo haisa daita noita le'aber. He's going to be influenced that he doesn't want it to be, or he would want it to be a leap year, because then Tishrei might become so cold, and he doesn't want to dunk in a cold mikvah. Allah Yud Beis.
The earlier it is, the better it is, because then it's warmer, right? Later it is, the colder it is.
The later it is, the colder it can be.
If you make it Iber yard, then it pushes it off by a month, then it'll get cold over there.
Right. High Rosh Beistin Hagadol. If the Rosh Beistin, V'hu Nikra Nasi, he's called a Nasi, B'derech HaChoika, he's on some travel. We only are allowed to institute a leap year according to his, on his condition, with his permission.
But it's contingent on him agreeing to it.
Right. If the Nasi comes and he contends, then you make a leap year. And if he doesn't agree, you do not make it a leap year. The only place we're allowed to make a leap year is in the area of Judea, because the Shechina is there. However, if you were instituting the leap year in the Galilee, then it still becomes a leap year. When is the time that we're allowed to make this leap year? Only during the day. However, if you did it during the nighttime, it's not going to be sanctified as a leap year. Okay.
I don't know how that jives with Rabbi Akiva that we talked about yesterday.
The what?
He was behind the Shana while he was in Nardo. I posted it on the chat. I don't know.
Halacha Yud Gimel. Yesh lebesin lechashev v'leida ezo shana tiyi meuberes b'chol eis shiyirsei afilu kama shanim. the court has the ability to calculate, to institute, to decide if the leap year is going to happen, even if it's going to be several leap years in advance. But they cannot say that this particular year is going to be Meuberes until it is after Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, I get it. We're talking about the Shana can only be done in Eretz Yisrael.
Yes, not the
Chodesh
yeah.
could be done outside Eretz Yisrael. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's that.
Okay, so they're allowed to say they can even have several years in a row, but they can only do it after Rosh Hashanah. Hu she'omrim shana zu me'aberes, by coming and they say that this year is a leap year. V'davar zeh mipnei hadoichek. This concept of announcing it so early, meaning not in the month of Adar, but announcing it before the month of Adar, is only in a pressing situation. In within shehi me'aberes. However, if it's not in a pressing situation, you do not announce, bless you, you don't announce that it's me'oberes. The only time you do that is the month of Adar. So what do? The Beis Din comes and they say this month is not. This month is not going to be Nisan, it's going to be Adar Sheni, and it's a full year, it's a leap year. Amru lifnei Rosh Hashanah. However, if they said it before Rosh Hashanah, Shana zu shetikanes meuberes, this year is going to be a leap year, and meuberes amira zu. You do not say that this year is going to be a leap year. Okay, halacha yudalad. Higia yom shloshim ba'adar. If the day of the 30th day of Adar comes, and they still didn't make a Ibr year, they do not make it a leap year. Because that day could have been Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Once Nisan comes and they did not make it a leap year, they are not able to make it a leap year. However, if they did come and make it a leap year on the 30th day of Adar, I think it's okay. It's not something they should do, but they made it me'oberes. They made it a leap year. If the Eidim came after they already made it a leap year, and they testified that there was a moon, meaning to show that it should not have been.
Into a leap year, it would have been Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
It would have been Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so they should not have done that. So then, what are they going to do? They're going to make it Mikadosh on the 30th day, the Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni, and now it's going to be Rosh Chodesh Sheni. So what does it say here in the notes? It says, nevertheless, since in actual fact the declaration of leap year preceded the sanctification of the moon, of the new month, therefore it is effective. The ilu kichuhu kredem shibrua shiyabru esashana. If they sanctify the new moon on the 30th day, and they declared it a leap year, shuv lo hayu ma'abrim, they should not have declared it a leap year. She'en ma'abrim b'Nisan, for the klal. This is a klal, is that the Nisan, you should never make a leap year in the month of Nisan.
Right.
Okay. Allah Dasain.
But he's saying that if they did it on the 30th,
Yeah, which could have been.
Came,
Yeah.
established the Chodesh,
Right.
then it would be effective. Even though retroactively it would come out that they were ma'aber the Shana in Nisan.
Right.
It's that they
So-
became Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
So if they,
Okay? It would actually end up being Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni.
right, very good.
Okay.
Halacha Tesvav. Okay. In Abrim Mesashana B'Shnas Ra'avan, we do not ever make a leap year, announce a leap year in a year of famine. Shahakol Ratzim Levesa Granois Lecho Belichios, because everybody wants to run to go to the granaries to partake of the new festival, the harvest, and to sustain themselves. So they want to have chadash, right? So you don't want to push off this chadash, right? Okay. It's impossible to prolong the time of chadash. So therefore, chadash is always after the 16th of Nisan. So we do not want to delay this because we care about the people sustaining themselves. We don't want to make it a tircha for the people.
Right.
Okay. The ein me'abrin bashvi'is. Also too, we do not make a leap year on the sabbatical year. Shiyad hakol sholetas al psichim hasfichim. Because everyone is entitled to the crops that grew on their own, the lo yimseu, the carbon ha'omer ushtei halechem, and then the grain is not going to be available for the omer offering and for the 2 loaves of the bread that we bring on Shavuos. Therefore, if you can't do it on a sabbatical year, there was a custom to do it on the year before. Okay.
Right.
There were showmen that was
Anyhow, what does it really matter if it was different or not? Not really sure. Okay.
Allah Zain. It seems to me, the Rambam says, that since we're not able to declare it on a fast year, on a famine year, or a shvis year, that we should not be declared because of a tzorech, meaning that they had issues with the roads or the bridges. However, if the year made sense to become a leap year because of the tkufa, or or because of the aviv, the reasons we said, then a leap year is always declared.
Even if it was Shemitah, even if it was
yes, even if it was Shemitah, even if it was a fast. Yeah. A famine. Fast. Halach Yud Zayin. Kesheme'abrin beistin es hashana koisvin igreis l'chol ha'mekomes ha'rechokim. When you have a leap year, you write letters to be sent out to all the distant places. And to tell them that it's a leap year. And why did they make it a leap year? And it is written by the Nasi of the reason why. What does the Nasi write? He says, let it be known that I and my colleagues, we agreed to make it a leap year for this many days. If it was possible for them to declare it a month of 29 days, or 30 days. So they were explaining themselves to the people, basically. Like, what was their reasoning?
They had the option of adding either a 30-day month or a 29-day month. Either way.
What difference does it make?
You don't need witnesses to come and testify in the new moon for this additional.
Right, it's an extra month, and he's saying, all right, we're adding a 30-day month. Or he's saying we could add a 29-day month.
Oh, I see.
That's the point.
When they added the month of other Sheni, they could choose to make it, like you're saying, 29 or 30 days. To the people who are far, to make it known to them. But according to the seeing of the moon, that's how they're going to do it. Whether it's going to be Malay or Chaser.
That's so strange.
I know.
They're letting the people know it's going to be 29 or 30 days, but then in Eretz Yisrael, they need to actually wait and see when witnesses are going to come.
Okay. All right, guys.
This notification would, however, be conditional on the actual sighting of the moon.
Right.
I don't know.
All right.
Okay. Chapter 5. Parak A.
Let's do it. 20
This
minutes,
is
baby.
now what?
20 minutes. 13.
Okay. 20
I
minutes.
love this.
Here we go. This is all about the fixed calendar. So this is actually how we do it nowadays. Kol she'emrim mikvias reish chodesh. Kol she'amarnu mikvias reish chodesh al hariyah. All the statements that we made regarding Rosh Chodesh was based on sighting of the moon. However, setting up a leap year is depending on the time, the 3 reasons we originally gave, or not for those 3 reasons, but because you needed it for practicality. The only way we set these up is with the Sanhedrin within Eretz Yisrael, or based in Hasmuchin Eretz Yisrael. Or it would be a Beistrin that has gotten smicha from Eretz Yisrael, and they were and the Sanhedrin gave them reshus. Shekach nemar leMoshe v'Aaron hachodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodashim. This is what was said to Moshe and Aaron, that the months will be lachem for you. Mipnei hashmo lamdu ish mi Moshe Rabbeinu. We learn from the oral tradition, from teacher to student. Shekachu perush hadavar eduzu tiye misura lachem. This testimony is given over lachem ulechol ha'omer achreihem bimkoimam, and to whoever who is after them as well, after Moshe Rabbeinu and Moshe and Aaron. Therefore, it was given one ish mi pi ish. Okay. Ava bizman she'ein sham Sanhedrin be'Eretz Yisrael. However, since there was no time, after the time there was no Sanhedrin in Eretz Yisrael, ein kovin chadashim ve'ein me'abrin shanim. Then we do not fix the months, and we do not make an Ibr year, except for the fixed calendar that we use now. Halacha base. This is a halacha from Moshe Rabbeinu. At the time when there's a Sanhedrin, you go according to the sighting of the moon. However, when there's no Sanhedrin, then what are we going to do? We're going to fix a calendar. And the sighting of the moon does not have influence at all. Therefore, there are times when the established date of Rosh Chodesh is going to be the day that we see the moon, or Koidem, or B'yom, whether it's going to be the day before or the day after. It's not going to be exact, or Achrav B'yom, or it's going to be the day after. What does it say here? That although ultimately these deviations are going to balance out, so you might have a day before, a day after. At any given time, the day established as Rosh Chodesh may be before or the day after which the moon can be sighted. Okay. It is, however, very rare and an extreme phenomenon to have it the day after the sighting. And it's only going to happen in the places which are west of Eretz Yisrael. Halacha Gimel. When did the Jews start to set up this calendar? This was at the time of the Gemara when Eretz Yisrael was destructed, based in Kavua, and there was no longer a fixed basting. However, in the times of the Mishnah and the times of the Gemara, until the times of Abai and Rava,
Who were living in Babel.
Who were living in Babel, all Kaviyas Eretz Yisrael, Hayu Seimchin. The people would rely on the establishment of the calendar based in Eretz Yisrael. What does the commentary say? This refers to a fixed calendar by Hillel II. Hillel HaKatan. Approximately 2 generations after the composition of the Yerushalmi Talmud. Okay. Halacha Daled. Kishahaisa Sanhedrin Kayemis. When the Sanhedrin was functioning, Hen Koivin Al Riyah, and they established the based on the sighting of the moon. Hayu b'nei Eretz Yisrael b'chena makom shemigim aleihem shluchei Tishrei. So it would be that in Eretz Yisrael and any place where they were able to send shluchim for the month of Tishrei, oisin yamin tovim or yom be'ovad, they would decide if
where the messengers could reach that.
Yeah, to that place where messengers for the month of Tishrei would be able to get to. Those places, so Eretz Yisrael, and those places, they would set up the holidays for only one day, right? So Eretz Yisrael and those close places, one day. However, farther places where the shluchim for Tishrei were not able to reach, they would set up the holiday for 2 days out of a doubt. Okay. B'nei Eretz Yisrael as a Chodesh, because they didn't know if the day that the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael established at the beginning of the new month. Halacha Hey. At this time, when we don't have a Sanhedrin, the based in Shel Eretz Yisrael Kovin Al Cheshvan, and the court of Eretz Yisrael is established in the month according to this fixed calendar. Haya min hadin shiyu bechol hamakomis oisin yom tov echad. it would be that according to halacha, it would be appropriate for the Jews throughout the world to celebrate the holiday for one day only. Why are we saying this? The safeguard, the note says the safeguard is celebrating the holiday for 2 days was no longer necessary because they established a fixed time.
We know it.
Okay, we already know that it's one day, right? Based on a fixed calendar. Okay. You could say that the farther places could be like Eretz Yisrael. Everything is based on a cheshbon that they were somechan, they were relying on. So now we ask the question: if we're using a fixed calendar, so why don't we also do one day here? Okay, therefore, the answer of why we still do 2 days outside of Eretz Yisrael,
They love us.
it's a takana. Yeah, we get an extra day off. It's a takana of the chachamim. She's haru b'minhag avosinu shebiyadeihem, that we want to retain the custom of our ancestors. Halacha vav. Leficha kol makom shelo hayu shluchei tishrei megim elav kishaya hashluchim yotzin. Whenever there were places that the messengers for the month of Tishrei would not be able to reach, when messengers were sent out, Yasu Shnei Yamim, they made it 2 days. Afilu Bazman Hazeh, even right now, at this time, even as when the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael established according to the sighting of the moon. However, the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael, they go according to their minhag to make 1 day. Because in Eretz Yisrael they never had 2 days.
Right.
Okay. Nimsa yom tov sheni she'anu oisim begalus b'zman hazeh. Therefore, our celebration of the second day of the holidays outside Eretz Yisrael midivrei soifrim shetikin davar zeh. It was done as a enactment of the rabbis. Okay. What about Rosh Hashanah? Halacha zayin. Yom tov shel Rosh Hashanah. At the time when they would establish it based on the sighting of the moon, they would still make it 2 days, even in Eretz Yisrael, because they didn't know if it was fixed with the Beis Din on that month. Because shluchim were not arriving on Yom Tov. The shluchim were coming after Yom Tov, so it was second day. So they always set it up for 2 days in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah? Okay. Halacha ches. Not only this, what about in Yerushalayim itself? They for sure got there the same day. What about in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, which was the place where the Beis Din was? Even then they would make it 2 days. Because if they didn't come on that day, they would wait for the Eidim to come, and they would make that day Kodesh, and they would make the next day Kodesh. Therefore, it would be 2 days when they would sanctify the month. Even in the time of when they would do it based on seeing the moon. Then they would even the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael should celebrate 2 days for 2 days in the present era. They're established based on the fixed calendar. Therefore, we find that even nowadays that you have Rosh Hashanah 2 days is because of the rabbinic institution. Okay. Halacha tes. Ein asiyas yom echad. We do not make 1 day. Tluya b'krivas hamakom. It's not dependent 1 day or 2 days, dependent on how. It's not a geographic issue. Ketzad. What does this mean? Hayim makom beino even Yerushalayim ehale chamisha yamim or pachos. If between here and this place where we're reaching from Yerushalayim would be 5 days or less, it would be definite that they could send out shluchim. It wouldn't be that in this place we do not say that they would make it only 1 day. Lanu shahayu hashlichim yotzim lamakom zeh. We didn't know if they were actually able to reach these farther places, right? Even if they can make it within 5 days, we wouldn't say if they actually got there, right? Okay. Shema lohayu hashlichim yotzim lamakom zeh. We don't know if they were going to get to this place. Mipnei shalohayu sham Eretz Yisrael, because this place was not Eretz Yisrael. However, after they came back to make a cheshbon, Yashu Sham Yisraelim, maybe in this place where there were no Jews, there is now going to be Jews. And over there in that place that didn't originally have Jews, but now it has Jews, you have to make it 2 days. Or there was a blockade on the way. Like the way there was a blockage between Yerushalayim and the Galil in the times of the Mishnah, or or that the Goyim would prevent the messengers from being able to go into their territories. Okay, halacha yud. V'ilu haya hadavar tuliya b'krivas hamakom. If this concept of picking 1 day or 2 days was dependent on distance only, a geographic distance only, then even in Egypt it would be 1 day. Because for sure the shluchim for the month of Tishrei would be able to get to Egypt. Because getting between Yerushalayim and Egypt via way of Ashkelon is a measure of 8 days or less. So too, you also can say Syria is very close to Eretz Yisrael. So you can say the same thing. Therefore, we find that it doesn't mean that it's based on geographic location. Therefore, we find that this is the summary of how we do it. If the place between Yerushalayim and this farther place was a 10-day journey, we would make it a 2-day holiday based on their previous custom, which is what they had. Okay. They always had 2 days, right? Because the messengers for Tishrei would only reach the places within a 10-day journey of Yerushalayim, whether 10 days or less. You
see why it's 10?
Yeah, it's 10 because
there's
Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur.
Right, not every year there's 2 Shabbos.
And he says in
Right.
a year where Rosh Hashanah
On Shabbos,
you'd
Shabbos,
have
right.
an extra day, that's for 5 days. That's why if it was 10 or more, they would keep 2 days.
If Shana fell on Shabbos and it took them, they
They had an extra day
an extra day.
to walk.
Oh, hold on.
That's when.
Right. Nevertheless, this is not so in the majority of the years, so 10-day journey is accepted as the standard measure.
That's why the Rambam says called Tishrei b'Tishrei.
Right.
It has to be something that can apply to every single year.
Right. So you're saying if it was a Tishrei where Shabbos was Rosh Hashanah, they would still keep this 10-day
Even though there's 11
distance.
days in Shabbos.
Keep it consistent. All right.
Anything important?
What?
I did not hear what they said. Was it anything important?
So we were saying that there's holidays in between these 10 days. There's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, 2 Shabbos in between.
So that's why the measurement was 10 days.
Well, it's 10 days. So yes.
Sukkot is on the 15th, Samach. Does he hear that?
Yes, I hear you. Yes.
The messengers couldn't travel on Yom Kippur or on Shabbos.
Correct.
So that's where this 10-day measurement comes from.
Right. This is why we set it up as 10 days, because of these holidays or Shabbos. So the places that are a 10-day journey or less from Yerushalayim, if you could send out messengers over there, could have reached them. We see whether the place is located in the portions of Eretz Yisrael that were inhabited by Jews. We would see if there were Jews in that place in able to cite it during the second conquest. Kigoyin, what's the second conquest? Usha, Ushfaram, Velud, Vyavne, Venoiv, Utveria, V'chiyetz Behem. In these places, Usha, Shfarim, Luz, Yavne, Nov, Tveria, and so on. They would celebrate Oisin Yom Echad Bilvad. They would only make it one day in those places.
Because there were Jews that were living there at the time
when
they
had
were Ma'aber the Shana Piriyah, right?
Yes, because that was their minhag. How about in Syria, which was outside that in Sur, in Damascus, in Ashkelon, and so on, even though Ashkelon is not really in Syria, or Mechutz La'aretz, or outside of past Syria, even Mechutz La'aretz, Kigon Mitzrayim, the Ammon, Moav, the Chayetz Behem, in these other places, Oisin Kiminhag Avusin Shuridehem. They would go according to their minhag. Im Yom Echad, Yom Echad. If they had a minhag to do one day in these places that's even in Syria or outside of Syria, they would go based on their minhag. When a place is within Yerushalayim 10 days or less, Syria or Chutz La'aretz, that includes Syria or outside. Minhag. How about they don't have a minhag? They don't know what to do, or it's a new city, or makam sheshachnu boy Israel ata, or a place that was the Jews are there now. They go according to 2 days, like the majority of the world. Every Yom Tov Sheni, according to the rabbis, even the celebration of the second day of Rosh Hashanah is observed by Jews, which is observed by all Jews in the present era right now. Okay, huh? Is midrabanan. Yeah, we said it like several.
In a lot, I think it took 2 days.
Correct. There was actually a story that they had Bachrim. They had Bachrim who were like in Yerushalayim or something.
Yeah.
And they were keeping one day, right? And then they came and they're like blasting their music and everything, and they came to I think Eilat, and they came and they didn't realize that Eilat is actually 2 days. They didn't realize, and they were like, "What are you guys doing, blasting music and everything?" It was a funny thing, whatever. Yud Gimel.
Where do you get that story from?
Huh? Whatever. Yud Gimel. Zeh shanu mechashvim b'zman hazeh kol echad echad be'ira v'oimrim sherosh Hashanah yom ploni. Calculations that we follow in the present era. Every individual in his community to determine when Rosh Chodesh is, or Rosh Hashanah, or Yom Tov b'yom ploni. V'loy b'cheshbon shelanu anu mekoivim v'loy alav anu semchim. It's not based on our cheshbon, and it's not we do not rely on, we rely on our calculations. Sorry, we do not rely on to establish the month calendar in the diaspora. We do not base it on making this calculation in Chutz La'aretz. We're not relying on this. We only do it based on Eretz Yisrael and how Eretz Yisrael established it. This that we make calculations, is only in order to reveal the calculation. In order to make known that it's only on this cheshbon that we're relying. In order to make known that it was established in Eretz Yisrael on this day. And the establishment of the Bnei Eretz Yisrael on this Rosh Chodesh or on this Yom Tov is not based on this. Therefore, in the notes it says that the Rambam points to a divine covenant that was established when there would be Jews living in Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, this is a thing that Rambam is saying is there's always going to be Jews in Eretz Yisrael, always to establish this calculation. He's saying that there's the special Inyan of Eretz Yisrael, that's where the Jews are always going to establish a month in order the year to always go out.
And when we make the calculation, we're determining when they just made their
correct. The Iker is Eretz Yisrael, not Chutz La'aretz. Okay. Have a great day.